Hey, Tribe, this is Craig Graves, your co host, and today we're going to talk a little bit about friendship in our short segment from episode 21. In episode 21, we talked about how to make friends and what are friends, and Chris shared an example of a situation where he made a new friend. And in that episode, Chris's quote is friendship is the antidote to loneliness. In our most recent show, was on loneliness. So perhaps if you are finding yourself in a lonely state, making friends is the answer. So in this segment, we talk about how to make friends. And so Chris did something that I have never heard of anybody else doing, is he was intentional about creating friends. He realized that he didn't have any friends, and so he set out to make new friends. And he talks about that in the show on episode 21. But this segment talks about specifically how to make friends. And let's jump right in.
Let's talk about how you make friends. You hear people say, I don't have them. Everybody really kind of wants them. So question asked, how do you make them? How do you make a friend? What do you think?
Well, I would say, just by getting to know somebody and realizing you have things in common with that person. And then, like you're saying, just hanging out and continuing to develop a friendship or relationship, if you want to call it that.
Mm-hmm. No, it's definitely a relationship.
Yeah.
And it's a weird thing, but it is a lot like, looking out for trying to find a date and whatever. I mean, you're trying to do really similar things.
Yeah, but I think it's interesting that you said you were looking for friends.
I was absolutely purposeful about it. Yeah.
Okay, that's interesting to me because I don't think people, at least I've never thought about purposely going out and trying to make new friends. Friends have come from different, through kids or through school or through fraternity or sports or jujitsu or whatever.
Right.
But I've never said, hey, I think I'm lacking in friendship. I'm going to go out and make some new friends.
I absolutely had that dialogue with myself, and I would say if you don't have them and you want them, you better make it a purpose.
I think it's a good thing to do because I think we need friends in our lives. You know?
And again, it doesn't happen automatically.
Yeah.
It's not just something that happens traditionally or very regularly or certainly very automatically. And if you don't make it into a purpose,
it's kind of,
it's not going to be there.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting that you related it to dating. Because, there are people that you kind of get to know and you're like, I just don't gel with that person.
No, absolutely.
Yeah, I just don't, we just don't have anything in common.
I'm
not
going
to be hanging out with that guy or whatever.
Right. I'm not,
For whatever reason.
Mm-hmm.
But that's interesting you made that comparison.
Let's make it simple. We tell kids when they're in school, they don't know how to make friends either. Right? And we try to help them along. And think about what you tell a kid. And then honestly, you probably need to tell yourself that if you want friends and you don't really have them, that this is what you need to do. Let's make it simple. You find out what the other person is interested in, and you ask them questions about that topic. And you find out what you're interested in that's in common with that person, and then you talk about that. And this extends to various life stuff. You find commonalities and you discuss them. That's essentially, simply as put, what we tell kids, hey, just go join the conversation and talk to people.
Yeah.
Why don't adults know how to do that?
True. Yeah, I was going to say, it seems like kids have a heck of a lot easier time making new friends than adults do.
They're not hung up on, saying stuff and reaching out to people. And it's also built in. I mean, when you're in school, you got people all around you.
Yeah.
When you're in work, you got a much smaller work environment.
Yeah.
I guess if you're working with a bank or an electric company or, some big corporation, you might have a lot of people, but a lot of people got like a 5-person office.
Yeah.
So it's even more important to be purposeful as an adult about that.
Yeah.
Looking around at the things that you're active in. But you can't just go to a social club and think that you're automatically going to come out of there with a load of friends. I mean, you have to do this.
Mm-hmm.
You talk about the purpose point. Okay, the social club is baseball. Well, we're going to play baseball and we're going to have fun doing that. But what are you interested in? And you ask them questions about it, and then you figure out what you have in common, and then you talk about those things, and then you extend them to other topics and other activities. It's really that simple.
Mm-hmm.
And somebody that gets good at that will have loads and loads of friends, as many as you want. Many as you want.
Yeah.
And as many as you have time to actually have. Sounds simple?
Sounds pretty simple to me.
I think if you ask people, how do you make friends, they would look at you like, I don't know.
I think it's just something that I haven't thought about consciously. You know, my friendships have just developed naturally or organically, but I've never consciously thought about how friendships develop and going out and making new friends, you know?
I might even make another challenge to the listening audience. You know what? Unless you feel like you've got enough and you can't handle any more friends, this next week, be purposeful and look around at people and just experiment with this in your own head.
Yeah. So there you go, folks. How to make friends. And Chris kind of ended that segment with a little bit of a challenge. And I'd like to reiterate that challenge. If you think you have a need for new friends or deeper friendships, then I would encourage you to do that. Go out and be intentional about making new friends. When Chris said that he was intentional about making new friends, I thought it was kind of weird. And I give Chris a hard time sometimes about being a weird guy on the show. Because I've never looked at it that way, and it's almost like a dating thing, if you will. I need to make new friends. I'm lonely, so I'm going to go out and look for some people to make new friendships with. So I thought that was kind of weird, but if you think about it, it makes really good sense. So I would encourage you, if you need some friendships, to follow Chris's advice and to go out and to do so. And I'd love to hear some feedback on your thoughts on this whole thing, you know, friendships and how to make friends and being intentional about it. And I would encourage you to listen to episode 21. We talk about what are true friends, what defines a friend. Like I said before, Chris kind of shares an example of himself making friends with someone. So it's a great show, and I think it's a good supplement to our show on loneliness. So if you hadn't heard that one, go check it out as well. Okay. All right, folks. Thanks again for listening, and we will see you guys or talk to you guys really soon. Thank you.